Hello, I'm Sarah and welcome to my knitting podcast. It's been ages since I've last recorded a video. Well, I've got a lot to show you. It's been a long time since I last recorded a podcast video. I did my end of year wrap-up video more recently, but I've got loads of stuff that I've been making and I'm really looking forward to showing it to you. So let's just get right into it. I have two finished jumpers. And one of them is the one that I'm wearing. I'll tell you about this one first. You might have seen it in my Everything I Made in 2024 video. I finished this on the 31st of December at about 8:30 p.m. And this is the Gia Zip Genser. It's a pattern by Sandnesgarn Designs. And I used a combination of hedgehog fibers, tweedy, and Lang yarns lace mohair to make this. The tweedy was in the original color. I bought it in the second drop that they ever did for tweedy. So it's the, I think every batch turned out a little bit different, but it's from that second drop. And I think the Lang mohair is in the color silver, and it pulls the tweedy to be this sort of bluey gray, as opposed to a sort of beigey gray, which it is regularly. I made the size, I think I made the size 7. It's all in my Ravelry page, and I might have gone into more detail earlier in an earlier episode of the podcast, but the recommended needle size is 4.5 millimeter. So I had made a swatch using this yarn at 4.5 millimeters, and I met the gauge and it was good. But then I made another swatch using a 4 millimeter needle, and I loved the fabric of that. It was just springy and dense and beautiful. And I decided that I would go up a couple of sizes and go use the smaller needle size and the tighter gauge to get the fabric that I wanted. I'm so happy with this project. I think all I had left to do for my last 2 podcast episodes has been to install the zipper, and I did that. It's not a perfect job. This was my 4th attempt, I think. I had originally purchased a 12-inch zipper, but it was just too long. And I tried twice, and it was too long. So I didn't want to cut it because I wanted it to be closed end. So I just ordered another zipper. Well, they come in packs of 3. So I ordered another 3 zippers, and then eventually I managed to get it in. It's a little bit divoted at the very top, and if you look very closely at the facing, it's not perfect, but I'm quite proud of it. I think I did a good job. I said, I think at the beginning of last year, that I wanted to really focus on improving my finishing skills, and this was definitely a project that required finishing skills. So I'm happy with it for now. If I ever feel in the future like I want to give it another shot, I could do that. But realistically, I don't think that that's going to be an issue for me. I'm very happy with it. I have been wearing this so much over the past, I don't know, a few weeks since I finished it. It's a great length. It's just a very easy to wear shape. And I really like the way that this lays. I like the way it lays when it's unzipped. I think it looks a little goofy when it's all the way zipped up. I don't know if I'd ever wear it like this, but maybe. It doesn't really look, I thought I would be able to wear it folded down, but that actually might be the goofiest option of them all. It's a drop shoulder design. The seam is at the very top of the shoulders, which is actually kind of interesting. I'd never knit a drop shoulder where the seam is right on the top of the shoulders before. And my sleeves are a little short. They've been shrinking up as I've been wearing it. I think just more room in the elbow. So I might end up unraveling the ribbing and lengthening the sleeves, but for now I really don't mind the sleeves being a little bit short. They're actually quite nice to not have to constantly fold them up. So if I ever want to lengthen them, I have the yarn to do so. But for now, it's great. I think probably the sleeves are short proportionally because I made the bigger size but went down the needle size. So it makes sense because I think people's arms don't get much proportionally larger as the sizes get wider. But I love it. I don't think that this gray is really like my color. I originally bought the yarn just because I loved the flecks, the gorgeous sort of neon tweed parts in the yarn. And I'm happy to have one gray thing. I think it's fine. I don't think that it's like a color that's wonderful for me, but it's definitely something that I'm happy with. I had originally planned on putting a little gemstone on the end of the zipper, and that idea is still in the works. I'm just trying to figure out how to attach it without it. I don't think I want to attach it to the end of the zipper pull. I think I would want to replace the zipper pull. But I think my next door neighbor is an instructor of jewelry and metalworking at maybe at Temple or at one of the art schools near here. So maybe I'll ask him. It's probably way below his pay grade, but maybe I'll ask him if he knows of like a really good way to connect a little gemstone to here. I have the gemstone. I showed it in a previous episode. It's like neon pink to match the neon pink flecks. I also finished another jumper in the past couple of weeks, my Stamford sweater. This is the Stamford sweater. I just had, I think, a sleeve to do when I last recorded, and that's complete. The test knit is over. I made it in time, and it was fun. It was good fun. This has quite a lot of positive ease, probably more than I think I would prefer, but hey, you have to learn somehow. For raglan, it's like a little bit too baggy. So I guess right off the bat, that's sort of my first thought, but it's been very nice to have. I've worn it a medium amount. I haven't finished weaving the ends in, so I'm trying not to let it get too like felted up there. I've done all of the ends for the body, all of the ends for the button band. I've done all of the ends from this seam, which is where I did the striping before like during the short rows. But I have the sleeves to do, which is still a lot of seaming, a lot of weaving in. I've done like this much of the first sleeve, and then I have all of the second sleeve and half again of the first sleeve to go. So I think I'll be wearing this more when I finish doing all of that weaving in, but it is quite the project. It's not over yet. I'll tell you a little bit about the design features of the jumper because now it's out, so it's available if you want to knit it. It's got a very deep button placket. I'll stand up so you can see how long it is. It's a raglan with a very deep button placket and this sort of double folded over collar. I think I wish it was a single folded over collar. I might go back and change that. I might not. I'm still sort of getting used to it because it's made out of, sorry, I'm just tripping over my words. I used Holst Super Soft Held Double to knit this. All of this was from Stash. I had 2 big cones of this main color, and then everything else I just had odds and ends of, and I was trying to recreate the look of a mountainside when you can see all of the bands of different types of rock. I think I did an alright job. I probably could have done a more convincing depiction of that if I bought some colors instead of just using what's in Stash, but I really like the effect that I got. I did run out of this medium brown before the very end of the last sleeve, so you can see that this sleeve I don't have any more of that brown. This was my last row. I don't think it's noticeable. If you are looking, it just kind of looks like I've gotten this cuff a little bit wet, but it's totally fine. I did make the sleeves and body for this longer because I know that the yarn changes a lot when you start to wear it and wash it. I've made another garment out of Holst Super Soft, which has shrank up significantly. So right now it's a little long, but I think as I wear it, it will become the right length. But again, I'm trying to avoid wearing it too much before I finish weaving the ends in. Although it's been kind of difficult to avoid wearing it because I really like it. I'm very happy with this. It was so much fun to knit with stripes. I'm planning on knitting a number of striped things in the near future just because I really like it. And a lot of my clothes are striped anyway, so it makes sense that I would be enjoying striped knitted items. I got 3 free patterns from Sophie Hemmings, the Knit Purl girl, who's the designer of this, in exchange for completing the test knit on time, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to making those. And she was really good to test knit for. I didn't come across any issues with the pattern at all, although I am a very slow knitter. Well, not very slow, but I think I was the last person in the group to finish the test knit. So by the time I was at any section, it was already fixed. But I sent in my yardage and all that stuff. So hopefully I was still helpful to have on the test knit. I did use buttons that I just had in my box of buttons. My grandmother a few years ago gave me a box of buttons that has like every button she's ever accumulated from any piece of clothing she's bought, and it's my treasure. So I just used 5 black plastic buttons of roughly similar size. They're not the same as each other. I think they're definitely close enough to work, and I don't know if they are going to be what stays on this, but they're great for now. And if I come across 5 buttons that I think would go better, it's very easy to change. I did make a swatch of this actually after I knit the garment. I didn't need to knit a new swatch because I had used the same needle size and the same yarn for a project last year, so I just reused my swatch for measuring because my tension hasn't changed since then. But after the fact, I used some leftover yarn to knit up a swatch with all the colors that I used. I even found when I was weaving in ends, some of the ends were long enough for me to incorporate of this darker brown that I ran out of. So there are 2 rows of that color in the swatch, and I just tied off the ends. And this was on a 4.5 millimeter. And then here's my original swatch. This is a bit longer, which is why it's bigger. I just had a thought in my mind that it might be interesting to try dyeing this. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it or not, but I think an over dye might sort of blend the colors together a little bit better and achieve more of that rock face look. I am, however, banned from dyeing things in my house because the last 2 times I've tried, I've gotten dye all over the walls, dye to sink, and then both times I did let it go moldy on the stovetop. So righteously I am banned from at-home dyeing things. I do have some friends who dye yarn, and then I'm also interested in like maybe slipping this into a community dye bath, maybe with like an indigo wash, or I don't know, something brown, like a black walnut situation. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it, but it has been very interesting to think about, and I have this swatch that I can use just to make sure that it's not going to ruin my whole garment, if I do ever want to do that. So I'm glad that I have it, and I love knitting a swatch. The only thing that's not great about swatch knitting is that it means that you have to delay the knitting the actual garment. But if you're knitting a swatch after you've knit the garment, while in a way it's useless, it's actually really fun because you get to keep knitting the thing that you've been enjoying knitting, and you're no longer under any pressure to just like get going. So I can't really imagine this another situation where a person would want to knit a swatch for a garment after finishing the garment, other than for this sort of thing. But I just really loved doing the striping on this. It was so much fun. It really felt like scratching an itch in my head. And I wanted to keep going, and so I did. So if I do ever dye this, I will let you know. I don't have any immediate plans to do that, but I'm prepared in case an opportunity falls into my lap. Okay, I have another sort of finished object, which is actually a new cast on, and it's kind of silly. I used to knit a lot with unspun yarn. I still have, in the past year I've knit a fair amount of unspun yarn, but right now all of my unspun yarn is in Edinburgh all together, which is good because I like to knit unspun with unspun. I don't really like to combine it with spun yarns unless it's like holding 2 together. So it's nice that they're all the colors are together, because then I have my full unspun palette to work with. But I had 1 plate of unspun yarn here in America, and I just wanted to knit with it. I wanted to use it up. I had bought it to finish my 2023 Stephen West Mystery Knit Along shawl, and I ended up deciding to call it. Like I changed the border for that shawl, and I was going to do 4 ruffles, and I did 1 ruffle, and I thought, that's enough. I like my idea, but I don't want to knit 3 more ruffles, and it was honestly already too big to be practical. So I decided 1 ruffle is enough, and I had a plate of Manchalope, I think. Wool Dreamers Manchalope in the plain white colorway, cream. And yeah, so I decided I would make a hat. I really like the iris hat pattern by Sari Nordlund. It's a 1x1 ribbed hat. It's for either DK weight or a fingering and a mohair held together, but I've used it for a lot of different types of yarns. I just kind of move the numbers up or down, and I thought that would be a great pattern. It's top down, so you can sort of decide how big you want it to be. And I cast on happily, and I was knitting away, and by the time I realized that this hat was a hat for a giant, it was too late for me to rip out. First of all, unspun yarns, it's a real pain in the butt to rip out. I didn't want to deal with it. And it changes the thickness, because as you're ripping, the fibers sort of stretch out. And I didn't want to end up with like 2/3 of a plate stretched out, and then 1/3 of a plate not stretched out. So I just decided to forge bravely onwards and even add a little bit of a flare to the end. So let me show you the hat I ended up with. So here's my iris hat patterned by Sari Nordlund, but none of the blame goes to her. I actually, for some reason, I added I think 12 stitches, and then at the end I just was increasing in the same way as the crown for a little bit until I ran out of yarn, and then I did I-cord bind off. I think I'm going to felt this. I mean, I have a very small head, so I wear children's bike helmets, but I don't think this would fit a human. It's huge. I know some people have really big heads, but I think this is even surpassing the biggest of heads. I'll show you, let me just show you the crown increases. I mean, it's beautiful. It looks kind of uneven, the knitting, but that's just the yarn, and I was using 3.5 millimeter needles for this, and it took like a week. I was happily knitting away on it. I had about 70 grams of yarn, and it's really just very large. So my plan is to try and felt this. I've been really wanting like a winter little cute bucket hat, but like warm, made out of wool. So I think I'm going to try felting this and see what happens. I made it deliberately long enough so that if I lost some length, that would be okay. If I lose some width, that would be amazing. And I mean, it's quite fun. It's cute. I think it's kind of cute. My boyfriend said it looked like a tortilla bowl, and I think he's right. It's very like dramatic. So yeah, that's my adventure with the iris, unspun iris hat. I'm gonna felt it. I've been waiting to do it because I wanted to record a video pre-felting. I don't have any experience deliberately felting anything, so I haven't made any decisions in order to plan how it's going to come out. So it's possible that it just shrinks up and is unwearable. I think that if it does felt successfully, I might add some colorful embroidery to it, but again, I'll just show you when that happens. And yeah, it's a very funny little project. I enjoyed making this even more when I found out that it was going to be huge, because it's an adventure. It's representative of an adventure. Also, it got this weird outlier type of yarn out of my stash here. The next project I'm going to show you is one that I finished last year, but it didn't come out very well, and I said I was going to return to it and try and make it work. And then when I was recording my everything I made in 2024 video, I was really motivated to try and fix it because I really like the yarn and I want this cardigan. So it was the Tulc, no, not Tulc. It was the Lumu cardigan by Gudrun Johnson that I did for a test knit. It was a secret test knit in the sort of mid-spring last year. When Gudrun Johnson posted the test knit call, I thought that it was going to be for one of her beautiful colorwork patterns. And then even though I could have backed out when before knitting it, I thought I would give it a shot. And then the shaping was kind of disastrous. I ended up with a big lump on the back of the neck, which was written right into the pattern. Like if you if you calculate the stitches and sort of graph out how many stitches and how wide they are, this lump would be there. So I think that, I mean, you can see that other people who've made it have the same lump, but on some people, depending on how the cardigan falls on them or how drapey the yarn they've used is, it's not a problem. I use the yarn recommended in the pattern and with the amount of ease recommended in the pattern, and yeah, it's unwearable. So if you want to see pictures of that, you can look at my Ravelry page or at one of the videos, podcast videos where I talk about it, or at my everything I made in 2024 to see what it looked like before. But I'll show you what it looks like now. What I did to attempt to fix this was I unpicked the bind off on the button band, which was so difficult. It's knit with mohair and Jamieson and Smith 4-ply, and the bind off was so hard to get out with the mohair. The mohair is Rowan Tulc Haze, and I think it's like the color, I mean, it's just like really purple, royal purple. So I unpicked the button band. It was such a shame to unpick that because it was a really beautiful button band. It's got short rows in it and it's in garter. I really liked that part of the pattern. So it was a bit of a shame to get rid of it, and it took forever to knit. And then I had to cut out the yoke because the yoke requires a sewn, like a graft to finish it, because you work both shoulders and then you graft them together. So I had to cut the graft out, and then I unraveled it down to about 4 rows above where I joined the sleeves. I wanted to switch the V neckline to a round neckline, and I thought I may as well just do that while I'm here. And I also wanted to keep a nod to the original style, which was a saddle shoulder. I didn't necessarily need to keep it being a saddle shoulder, but I wanted it to be sort of an interesting and fitted shoulder. I wasn't really interested in doing a raglan, and it didn't have enough positive ease to be a drop shoulder anyway. So I decided to do a contiguous design, and I found one with a similar gauge. However, I couldn't find one with a similar gauge that looked like it would work, that was bottom up. So I had to choose a top down one and then reverse the pattern so I could knit it bottom up, which I did. I ended up going with the Albiona McLochlainn's Tulc cardigan, short for the ultimate lazy cardigan. Not lazy in how it's knit, I'm sure, but rather lazy in that you can just throw it on. Or maybe, like, I don't know. I think that's why it's called that. Or maybe because the way she designs it, all of the button bands are incorporated, but I don't like, I'm fine with a collar that you knit, that you just cast on the collar, like the ribbing. But I've made a cardigan also by Albiona McLochlainn. I'm not totally sure I'm saying her name right. And my tension in the ribbing for the button band was different from my tension in the stockinette, which makes sense to me. And so the ribbing is like a little wavy. So I probably would opt, I'd rather just do the button band after and have it look good if I'm not able to keep my tension between ribbing and stockinette. I do think my ribbing is much looser than my stockinette proportionally. So I think if you're going to make that sort of thing, it's a good idea to swatch. I didn't. So that cardigan is fine. It's like wearable, but it kind of like bows out at the front. Anyway, I didn't want to do that, but I also couldn't do it because I had already knit just past the armholes without an integrated button band. So I just tried to get rid of that section in the pattern in my mind and proceed as if it wasn't there. The knitting bottom up was quite complicated for me. It required me writing the pattern, reading it backwards. I figured out what size I was based on the number of stitches I had around the body and around each arm. Well, from stitch mark at the start of the arm and stitch mark at the end of the arm, and then matching those up with the closest size in the pattern, and then cross-checking that that size in the pattern would fit me, because I'm working with the same gauge. So I did that. I think that for some reason this came out smaller, even though it's the size it was supposed to be in the pattern. And then, yeah, I worked backwards from there. I had a really hard time figuring out the short rows, so I just did my own thing for the short rows. I did short rows, but I didn't do the ones in the pattern. I just sort of spaced them out evenly, and then did the number of them that was in the pattern. But it was just like too confusing to figure that out backwards. So because the different short row methods, some of them use a stitch in the wrap and turn or in the German short row, but then some of them don't, and I just couldn't really, you know, it was just too confusing, and I knew that I was able just to wing it. So that's what I did. So yes, the pattern it's a set-in sleeve design, and I've not done the button band yet, either at the front or the collar, but I have otherwise finished knitting. I'm gonna put it on, and I'll talk to you about the obvious visible issue that I have with it once it's on. It is really cold in Philadelphia at the moment. It's actually quite cold on like the whole east coast of the States, and it's really dry here, so my hair is very staticky. It's like really sticking to everything, especially like taking on and off this knitwear. So the first and obvious issue that I'm having is that it's just a bit small. I think that it will fit fine once I add the button bands. I don't know if you saw before, but it's not gaping much more on me than it does off of my body. That's just sort of the reverse stockinette rolling. But I don't have any ease. I knit it to have 0 ease, so in a way that's correct. I think that this shoulder detail is very nice. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. But it's a little small. I don't really wear things that have 0 or negative ease unless it's like a summer top. I don't have a lot of use for a cardigan with 0 ease. It hasn't been blocked since I reknit the yoke, so it's possible that that will help, and I'm planning on knitting quite a thick button band, so I think that that will help too. Otherwise, it fits me very nicely. The yoke shaping is great, the shoulder shaping is beautiful. I really like this curve. It's cropped, which, you know, I would prefer for it to be less cropped, and the sleeves are too short. So in the original pattern, I think that the armpit was just deeper. Like the yoke was just deeper, and so it was much less it was just like less too small. The sleeves I knit to, I mean, they were like long enough when I knit them, but I think just raising that arm resulted in it becoming much more cropped in the body and the sleeves. That would make sense. I will be lengthening the sleeves. I have to cut out the ribbing to do that because the sleeves are bottom up. But I don't think it's worth me grafting the ribbing back on. I think I'll just reknit it. Add maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20 rows and then reknit the ribbing. And I don't think I'm gonna make the body longer. It's so cropped that if it comes past, I mean, if it goes much past the smallest point of my waist, it's not gonna fit me. I'm just looking, I have a mirror over there. I think that the length would be fine. The length in the body will be fine. The length in the sleeves is not ideal. But otherwise it's pretty comfortable. I like the round neck. I love the color. So yeah, this was quite the effort. It took me about a week of working exclusively on this to do both the unraveling and the reknitting and the pattern interpretation. I would definitely make this cardigan again. I'd maybe go up a couple sizes or use a looser gauge, but very well written, beautifully shaped. And I think that a reblock and a nice thick button band and collar, and this will be really nice. Maybe not what I would sort of, if I was in a vacuum, I might not like end up making this, but I almost have it. It's almost done. And I do like it. Most of the stuff I've made recently has had a lot of positive ease. And that's been my style for a while. So I'm doing that on purpose, but it is good to mix it up a little bit too. I'm happy with how this is turning out, and hopefully by my next episode, I'll be able to show you the finished, the second time around version of this. I was so upset about it not working out before that it was just in my closet, not like in any moth protection. And as I was trying everything on to record my end of 2024 video, I was feeling kind of bad about that. And like I really wanted to give this a second chance. So I've done that. Well, I am trying to do that. And it's going well. So that's the Tulc cardigan / reincarnated Lumu cardigan, purple. This is going to be quite a long episode. I've just been knitting a lot. I have, I think, 3 works in progress left to show you. Well, one of them is just a hat that I've been knitting. I don't even know where it is. It's just a plain ribbed hat. So next time I'll show you that. It's not very much to look at. I haven't been working on it that much, but I do keep saying I want to cast on another little stuffed animal cuddly toy, and I went to do that, but I realized that that set of needles that I would be using is currently occupied by this long-term hat project. So now I'm trying to finish that, and that's just like plain 1x1 rib. But my new cast on this past weekend is a pair of socks. I will show you. I guess it's not a pair, it's just one sock, but it will be a pair. Oh no, did I drop a stitch? No, okay, I didn't drop a stitch. It will be a pair of socks. These are from the Lina 52 Weeks of Socks book, which I have and I love. And they are the Riverbed socks by Locatelli. I'm using Whistlebear sock yarn. Got all of a sudden all this mohair on my nose. Whistlebear sock yarn, which is 80% mohair, 20% I think cheviot, and it is about a sport weight, and it's a super weird yarn. It's the mohair is not like how you see mohair in a mohair silk. It's incorporated into the yarn, and this sock yarn in particular is very tightly spun. So since mohair is quite if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, but mohair is quite a straight fiber. It doesn't really have any crimp to it. So when it is spun in this way, you end up with this like silky, very smooth yarn that has very little give to it, like almost no elasticity. And it's a yarn that desperately wants to be straight. It does not like being tied in a knot. It doesn't like being contorted into a stitch. If you drop a stitch, those fibers just want to straighten out. It's quite interesting. It's like if you made a garment out of it, it wouldn't have any drape because it just resists being bent into the knit stitch. So you can see that like the first knot of my cast on, it's like refusing to be a knot. And then the ribbing is very interesting because the rib stitches are so wide. It's supposed to be very hard wearing and also smell resistant because the fibers are smooth. So apparently they're much less prone to like odor and bacteria. I don't know. I've made 2 pairs of socks in this yarn. I had 3 skeins and this is my last skein of it. And it's also the first one that I bought. My nose is, I've got a little piece of mohair on my nose. But 2 of them are in Edinburgh, and I've worn them a couple times like around the house, but I haven't gotten much opportunity to like really wear test them. So these will be the pair that I'm wear testing. Okay, so about the pattern. It's designed for 3mm needles, which I'm using. I'm knitting these on DPNs because that's what I've got for 3mm. I really like knitting on DPNs. It's where I learned how to knit in the round, and it is what I doggedly stuck to knitting in the round using during the long period of time where I couldn't figure out magic loop and refused to buy circular needles. So I'm pretty comfortable on DPNs. I like to knit a sock on DPNs. It's familiar to me. It's a good size needle for this yarn. One of the pairs of socks I made, I used 2.25mm needles with using this yarn, and it was just so difficult to work. Splitty, drop stitches, it was really tough. This yarn likes this needle size, and I think it makes a really nice fabric. The pattern is mostly using the purl side of the fabric. Let's see if I can show you. I'm losing the light a bit. Oh, there's my laddering. I normally don't have any laddering, but when I'm knitting reverse stockinette, I get, especially in this yarn, I get this like kind of intense ladder. It's something I need to practice so I don't always have this issue, but you can really see it. I think it'll work itself out. Weirdly, I don't have it in any of the other places that the needle join together, like at all on that side. So this is a sock. It's top down. You cast on, I'm making the bigger size. I think it's like somewhere in the 50s cast on. You rib for a little bit, and then you do this sort of swirly cable. Maybe if I stick my hand in. Swirly cable pattern. There you go. It's not a true cable because you do it using knits and purls and knit 2 together and yarn over. There you go. I kind of, don't look at the first couple of repeats. I really got the hang of it over here. And the first couple of repeats have a lot of mistakes. Oh, that looks good. There you go. And then there's also a cable on the back that goes into the heel. I knit the leg on this really long. I don't think I'm going to have enough yarn to finish the second sock to the same leg length without breaking into some of my leftovers, which are in a different color. So that's probably going to look a little bit silly. I was just really enjoying knitting the leg and I didn't want to stop. So I just kept knitting the leg. They're supposed to be quite short-legged socks, but these might be the longest legged socks I've ever made. They will shrink up when they're stretched out over my ankle, but still, they're gonna be kind of long. This just past weekend, went to a cabin owned by the family of one of mine and my boyfriend's friends from college in Vermont. And I'd never been before, and it was so nice. I'm not surprised that it was nice at all. I just had a great time. I guess I'm just surprised that I enjoyed it so much because it's been a little bit of a tough time. It's hard applying for jobs. It's tough being a little bit isolated, and yeah, applying for jobs is not a very fun way to be spending all of my time, and I think it puts a real social damper on me as well because I don't have anything day to day to really fuel me or to chat about with people. And I hate when people say, oh, what do you do? And I have to say, oh, I'm unemployed, looking for a job. That really shuts down conversations fast. So I've been a bit sort of down in general, and I just had a lovely time. I met a lot of new people. We were hit by that big snowstorm, which made some of the driving conditions kind of scary, but everyone was safe. It just took a long time to get anywhere. Our rental car had rear wheel drive. I never knew that that was a thing. I didn't know. I thought it was always at the front or in all four. I really know very little about cars, but it was a nightmare. Every time we had to leave or go anywhere, we had to have a crew of people pushing us out. And I pushed the car single-handedly myself, halfway up a hill with my boyfriend. You know, he was driving, but I was pushing, and it was very satisfying. I'll put in a photo of how far I pushed the car so that you can see and be proud of me. And then the next day, my back, my lats were really sore. Not I'd injured myself, just the muscles. I've never been in weather that cold before. And I also learned how to start fire in a fireplace and how to keep it going, which is kind of cool. I thought I knew how to do that. I did not know how to do that. So I felt pretty successful. Everyone else was skiing and snowboarding. There were a few mountains nearby. I can ski, but I don't really like to. I took quite a lot of lessons when I was a child, and every year I was being held back. So every year I was with younger and younger people in my skiing class, and eventually I just sort of thought, I've given this a good try. I'm passable at skiing, but I don't ever want to go fast, and I don't ever want to go down something steep. I'm perfectly happy if it's not slippery, going down something not too steep at my own pace, but it's quite rare to encounter that sort of run, and it's a lot of effort to get out there. So I decided for this trip I was just going to hang out at the bottom of the mountain or hang out at the cabin. I had loads of books, loads of knitting. I was very happy to do that. It was gorgeous. And that is what I did, and it went very well. I'm not ruling out ever doing it again, like skiing or snowboarding. I also, the last time I went, I was at the top of the mountain and I was looking down and I had this moment of fear where I just didn't want to do it. But you can't back out when you're there at the top. You have to get down somehow. So I sort of felt that the whole way down, and I remember it was so busy and very icy. And I got to the bottom and I just thought, I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm an adult and I don't have to. So opting out felt good, but now that I've confirmed to myself that I can opt out, part of me kind of wants to try it again next time. So I don't know. I can't explain it. Anyway, while I was at the cabin and everyone else was skiing and snowboarding and having a great time, I was also having a great time knitting this sock. I chose this project. I actually wanted to cast on a stuffed animal, but as I said before, the needles were busy. And then I thought it would be great to use up this yarn, and I thought the pattern was beautiful, felt like working on DPNs. And it had been a while since I made a sock. And then everyone got home when I was at the point where I was going to start the heel flap, but I didn't want to do something I had to concentrate on, and I was having a really nice time. So I just kept going on the leg. So that was my very long-winded explanation for why this leg is so long. I'll have to do the other one to match, but yeah, the next one might have like half of the foot in the leftover gray or cream from my other pairs of socks in this yarn, which is fine. It's very beautiful. The navy is stunning. I really like the look of this cable. Joji's pattern is very easy to follow. I just really like the 52 Weeks of Socks book. This is the 7th pattern I've made out of it. So I've done 1 week, if you think about it, as in 1 sock is a day. 1 pair is a day. But I don't know why you would think about it like that, because it doesn't make much sense. So anyway, I'm in the gusset. I just did a heel flap, reinforced heel flap. I don't know if you can see. I might, because I like a challenge, I might turn it inside out and try and re-engineer the cable-y section to figure out how to work it from the inside out so that I'm not purling the whole way, because it's much easier on my hands for the DPNs to knit instead of to purl the whole thing. And I've been having quite a lot of wrist pain recently. I couldn't knit at all for about a week at the beginning of January. I have this recurrent ganglion cyst in my wrist, which I've had drained in the past, and I might get it done again. But every time I make a doctor's appointment, it goes away. So that's very annoying. And they pop up at the worst times, like when we're traveling or when I'm really stressed, the cyst comes back and it's excruciating. And the only thing that I know of that helps it is just to rest it aggressively. So like no knitting at all. And I can feel like when I do knit, even when I have the pain moves around, I guess because it makes me move my hand differently. So I get this like radiating kind of burning pain down the side of my arm. And I would like to avoid that because that feels like it's doing damage. I also find that working with the unspun yarn sometimes triggers the cyst pain. I guess it's just like my hand is moving in a specific way. I can't tension the yarn as I normally would. So I think it might be the fact that I spent many hours a day for a week working on this gorgeous monstrosity. I don't know. It's gotten a lot better. Being away, carrying my suitcase didn't help, but it's not like causing me pain all the time anymore. Just if I try and move my hand like into the back, sort of back bending position. Like if I couldn't do a push-up because of it at the moment, but otherwise it's feeling okay. So I hope it keeps feeling better. And I should probably make that doctor's appointment, if only to get the cyst to go away so that I can embarrass myself while I'm there. I have my last project to show you now. It's going to be familiar. It is my Hanukkah jumper, my color block cable jumper. And I also brought this to the cabin and worked on this. Of course, I am still in the middle of the row. I'm working on, I don't know if this is going to be the front or the back, but I've been working on this pink section. I switched, like I finished all of the brown and now I'm on the pink. So that's about that. This is quite slow moving, and I really enjoy knitting this. I find it to be quite mentally stimulating. At this point, I have all of the cables memorized, but it's still more engaging than pretty much any other project I'm working on, because all of the cables are different. And here, I'll just show you in case you're new. I've got this diamond, there's this plait, and I've got this heart cable. There's this big honey, is it a honeycomb? I don't think it's a honeycomb, but maybe it is. And then it's the same on both sides. I deviated from the pattern quite a lot to make this. I moved around all of the cables at the sides. I added this heart one in, I moved the diamond one over, and I made it so that there were fewer of the braid twist combos. In the original design, the bigger sizes, I think to add stitches, it's mostly just adding these two smaller cables over and over again, and I just didn't really want that look, so I added in extra medium-sized cables. To do that, I used an Excel spreadsheet to figure out all the numbers, and it took a couple tries, but I got there in the end. I really like the way it's looking. Originally, in case you're new, my boyfriend last year for Hanukkah gave me a different color of yarn every night of Hanukkah to make this jumper with. I had like sent him maybe 25 colors of yarn, and he narrowed it down to 8 and then got them and then chose the order to give them to me in. And I've already done the sleeves, which I think I have in this bag. This is all the rest of the yarn. It's a lot. Yes, I've almost, oh, it's fine. This is the other side, either the back or the front. I thought I'd rip the needle out, but actually it's just on some waste yarn. So there's that lovely red. And then here's a sleeve. It's knit in pieces because I wanted the colors to be different on the front and the back, and I didn't want to do intarsia. I just thought I would knit it flat and seam it together. Here's one of the sleeves. I haven't done the top raglan section of this one yet, but I've got this, oh, that's the back. I've got this gorgeous, I mean, it's like a Hulk colors, I've been told, but I love this light green and the purple combo. And this is what the sides of the jumper looked like originally, just with these two cables repeating. So I wanted to mix it up for the body. And then the other sleeve, I have done up to the neckline. And here it is. So yes, this sort of feels like a never-ending project because the rows take so long, but having done the sleeves actually makes it true that I'm rather far along with this project. I do have quite a lot to go with the body, but it's very enjoyable to work on. I love the yarn. It's Jamieson and Smith. Here's one of the balls. And if you want to see my color order, check out one of my recent videos. I talk about it more in basically every video. So I think I'm gonna maybe just refer you to those if you want to know more about it. I love this project. It's so beautiful. It is now my main jumper project, and I have been working on it. I've been working on a lot of little things since my last video podcast recording, and yeah, I love this. I think I'm using, well, I can just tell you actually, I'm using 5mm needles and I'm holding the yarn double. And this is also going to be quite oversized. As you can see, I think it's going to be gorgeous. A really, really gorgeous, warm, fun, color blocked. I think that the combination of the color blocking and the cabling is going to be so great, because it's two really prominent design features, but since I'm using this color yarn that's designed for color work, the cabling is not going to pop after wearing it. It's going to, I mean, it's like not got a lot of stitch definition, and the colors are going to be anyway what you see first. You could see the colors from, you know, however 100 meters away you could see all the colors. So the cabling is going to be like a very surprising secondary element, and I just think that's really fun. I like that. It's looking exactly how I want it to. I'm very happy with everything I'm knitting right now. It's bringing me a lot of joy and fun, and it's been a really nice whole other side of my life and interest to the kind of bummer situation of job applications. So I'm grateful for the knitting, and yeah, it's really fun, really enjoying it. So that's pretty much all I've got to talk to you about. I will just be continuing doing what I've been doing. Next week I'm going to visit my friend in Minnesota, and I'm really excited for that, for a couple days. And other than that, yeah, more job applications, more knitting. Hopefully it gets a little bit warmer, but not too much warmer. I do want it to feel like winter, but it is just a bit extreme right now. It's like -10 degrees here today. I decided I would take the bus to I had some doctor's appointments today. I decided I would take the bus to the hospital because it's like a 45-minute walk. First bus didn't come at all. Second bus was late. Stood out in the cold for about 15-20 minutes, and then the bus went really slowly. It would have been faster to walk and less cold because I was just standing there for so long. Like, I didn't warm up on the bus. I kept my coat on for like the first 20 minutes of waiting. So that was a bit of a fail. I'd like if it was a little bit warmer. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are keeping warm if it is winter where you are, and I hope that you're enjoying your knitting. I'm really enjoying mine. I don't think I've bought any yarn in the past couple of weeks. I've really been going through my Ravelry stash and cataloging every single thing. So if you want to see, if you're curious about what I have in my stash here, check out my Ravelry. I've gone through every single ball of yarn that I own, and I've put it all into Ravelry, which has been a kind of fun project. The more information you give Ravelry, the more interesting things you can do with it. So yeah, if you've got time, I recommend doing that. It's fun. And that's about it. That's about all I have to talk to you about. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.